Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. What if burnout wasn't a badge of honor, but a sign that you've been building your business upside down? This is a conversation that I'm having today with my guest and my business coach, Bunny Young. Bunny's path is anything but ordinary. She's been a professional stunt woman, she's a licensed therapist, and is also a wildly successful serial entrepreneur who has been unapologetically making more money than her husband while raising 3 kids and providing for her family. She has owned businesses since she was a young woman in her late teens and sold her first business in her early 20s. I really love this woman because she doesn't just talk strategy, and she's totally a no bullshit kind of lady. She lives by her heart and by her truth, and really is promoting building your business with self-care at the center. And so the foundation of her business model is really about building a business that supports you instead of you building yourself a job and having a shitty boss, which is yourself. So if you are a healer, a coach, a yoga teacher, a spiritual entrepreneur, if you're anyone who works for themselves or contracts their work out to someone else, so you basically are working for yourself, this is going to be a great episode for you because Bunny's going to help you reframe how you're managing your energy, your wealth, your time, and if you have a team, your team as well. So we are exploring what it means to be radically responsible in your life and in your business, and how alignment is the secret weapon for success. Why your nervous system is your greatest business asset. Hear that again. Your nervous system is crucial for your success in business. And this is why I love my own mastermind, the Lightworker Mastermind, where it's not just about creating strategy and having that coaching and that community to help you stay on track with building your business, but there's also regular energy realignment using the techniques of breath work, chanting, spinal energetics, and integrating spiritual philosophy into your everyday life. So if you've been craving a new way of building your business, one that feels spacious, sustainable, and soul-aligned, then I'd encourage you to send me a DM on Instagram and let's get in conversation. I'd love to see if my Lightworker Mastermind would be a fit for you. And I know for 100% certainty that this conversation is going to light you up. There's something in here for everyone. And so let's get started. Hello and welcome, Bunny Young. How are you today?
I'm so stoked to be here. I am so glad that the planets aligned and we made all of this possible. And we're already in the energy. So I'm super happy to be here.
Amazing. If people only knew what all happened and transpired to have us connect here today.
Right? I mean, yeah. And everything happens for a reason.
It's true. It's true. So I want to just introduce you as my business coach and frequency mentor.
Yes. Yeah.
But for people who don't know you, tell everyone a little bit. You have such an incredible story. It's crazy and wild and magnificent. And also, yeah, let's start there. Let's just like start with how did you get into this work, working with coaches and people building businesses?
Yes. So the abbreviated version of that is that I'm a third generation entrepreneur. So I grew up in business, and it's something that we've talked about a lot, where I didn't realize that I knew business. I didn't realize that like that was unique or special or anything like that, because I grew up in it. I'm sure around the dinner table, there's families that talk about, cars, or talk about like, how was your day? And our conversations were about the fact that if you made $1,000, somebody paid you $1,000 invoice. You didn't actually make $1,000. You made $714 after taxes and cost of goods sold. And that was just my normal, what I call like my ocean, because of the incredible family that I grew up in. And I knew in high school, or I thought I knew. Do you remember when we like knew it all in middle school and high school? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I told my mom that the only thing that I was never going to grow up to be is an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. And she just laughed, right?
No, I think she believed me. I think she believed
Really?
me at that moment. However, I think she stopped believing me when I was 17 and I started a swimming company and a lifeguarding company, and she was helping me with my books and with invoicing and office management. And there came a point where she said, I think you need to get an accountant. I think you need to file taxes. Like, I think you have a business. And I'm like, no, this is a side hustle. Like, you don't understand. Like, this is a side hustle. This isn't a real thing. Like, I'm just doing this on the side. Mind you, I also had 2 jobs and was going to school to get my bachelor's degree. I was double majoring. Wow, double majoring.
Yeah.
And so all of this is going on. Yeah. And I left for China. I met my now husband, and we had an opportunity to go do stunt work as a stunt woman in China. And I sold my company. Like, I sold my company at 20, my first company. And amazing. My mom's like, you sold your company. And I'm like, no, I had a list of clients and I had a list of employees and I had this equipment. And obviously I'm not going to do it while I'm in China. So I gave it to somebody else for money. She's like, sold your company. So I had a really, really good head start. And in every job that I had, my job would be here, Harmony. My job would be doing therapy or doing, child protective services or being an EMT. And then I'd be over here and be like, you do understand your systems are not efficient and this could be improved and this could be improved. And you could, track mileage this way and this could be an expense. I think my bosses were just like, can you just please do your job? And
yeah, right. Stop trying to make things more efficient.
Yeah, well, I couldn't help myself. I really couldn't. And it's not that I enjoyed it. It was just like, it was frustrating. Anybody who knows me knows that like efficiency is important to me. Like, yeah, I really do everything from my communication. I've been accused of being very direct in my communication. I'm like, that's very efficient. And so this went on until I got my master's degree, because I thought I figured out the thing that I wanted to do was be a therapist. And I went to school and I got my master's degree. And my last year of the program, I went to my supervisor and I was like, hey, I don't want to do this. Like, I had done social services and I'd went from making no money in social services, but having this really fulfilling career, to building a $350,000 private practice in about 6 to 8 months, but not feeling fulfilled at all and really despising sitting in front of a client or a patient in an office all day long. Mm-hmm. And anytime that I went on vacation, that also meant that my salary was also, in the meantime, I got my yoga 400 certification because
Yeah.
I was just doing all of the things to try to make people's
Yeah.
lives better. And my supervisor said, "Hey, why don't you try equine therapy?" And I was like, well, the horses that have to spend time with humans all day might need therapy. So that's probably good. And she's like, "No, bunny, that's not what that is. It's this thing." And so I ended up getting a specialization, one of only 2 colleges in the US that had the specialization. And that's what I did. And I started to do equine therapy. And then I had a C-suite executive from a Fortune 50 company come through one of our equine therapy workshops, and it was on substance abuse and addiction. And he said, "Hey, I want to bring my team back, and I want to do a weekend with my team at the ranch." I said, "Do you want to bring your team, like your work, to therapy? That's weird."
Yeah.
And then they did. And then about 2 weeks after they came, he said, "I want somebody from the ranch to come work with us in Chicago and help us implement these lessons that we learned at the ranch." And my supervisor's husband that I was working with, Dr. Alan Hamilton. So my supervisor was Dr. Jane Hamilton. She's an incredible psychologist. And then Dr. Alan Hamilton is a Harvard-trained brain surgeon, one of the best in the world, who happens to just also love horses. So we were studying how equine therapy impacts the brain and recovery.
Wow.
And he looked at me and he said, "Can you hold a safe space for transformation?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, that's what I went to school for," which, for those of you listening, is a total lie. You don't go to school to become who you are. You don't get a license or a certification or a degree in who you are. You are who you are. And don't let any school or any certification get in the way of bringing your magic to this world. And that was what I learned in this moment, because that's what he said to me. He said, "You didn't go to school for that. That's who you are." And so I flew to Chicago. I had to figure out how to put real clothes on.
So you're just like in your cowgirl clothes the whole time?
I mean, I literally spent, since I graduated high school, like time in a swimsuit 80% of the time, because I was lifeguarding and teaching swimming. And when I wasn't in that, I was in like a hoodie and sweats. And then when I wasn't in that, I was in boots and jeans and a tank top. I was tan. I was hot. I'm still hot. But like, man, I mean, it was just, I had a thing going. And then they're like, "Nope, we're going to get you." And I didn't fly. My first flight was not on a private jet, but they have a private jet. And just wrapping your brain around going from making $27,000 a year working in social services for somebody else, having zero control over your schedule, to working for yourself, being able to literally write a blank check, because no one was doing this. No one was doing organizational psychology. No one was doing, well-being in the workplace. This was totally like new frontier territory in the US in 2007, 2008. And so, yeah, I had the opportunity to do that. And from there, I decided I don't really want to work with corporations. I ended up in a full circle moment where I wanted to go back to working with individuals like my mom and my dad and my grandfather, who were really good at what they do and wanted support in building a business that worked for them versus the other way around. And so that is the full circle moment that took me from my smart ASS high school self that was like, "I'm never going to be an entrepreneur," to owning 16 companies in the last 21 years.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. How on earth?
Hey, they were not all successful. I'm going to go on record to say some of them were giant dumpster fires, and they were only successful because of the lessons that I learned, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. However, everything that I've done, from moving to Ecuador to volunteer in an orphanage, to moving to China to be a stunt woman, to getting my EMT, to getting my yoga teacher certification, everything has led me to this point. So I have no regrets. And I will tell you, I will be fully honest that you can be a lot more efficient than I was to get here.
Yeah, and I mean, did you ever have the experience in all of these years and of building different businesses and creating this life that is, this profound life of yours, where you felt like your businesses were running you, where you felt like you were overworked? Because now you've shifted that, and that's what you really like help other, entrepreneurs do, is build a business that's working for them instead of feeling like you're employed by your business. And like I always say, I'm like, yeah, I have a really shitty boss sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But it's me.
Yes. Yes. No, we went to Disneyland and did a staycation, because I'm only 30 minutes from Disneyland in California, but we did a staycation, and somebody at the pool was like, "Did you have to take time off of work?" And I was like, "No, my boss is pretty cool. I mean, sometimes she's a bitch, but overall she's pretty cool." And they were like, "Oh." And my best friend was there, and my husband was there too, and they both looked at me and just shook their heads because they knew exactly who I was talking about. I'm laughing at this question because I think that in some way, shape, or form, spiritually, my businesses have always worked for me. I think I've shared this with you, that when I had my first child, my daughter, she's amazing. She's 14 now, which makes me feel super old. It's great. And about 9 months into it, I found myself working over 100 hours a week and doing all the things and telling myself that I was doing this for her. And in the reality, I think that we always create the curriculum for our highest and best lives. And so I can't say that my business needed me for 100 hours plus a week. I can say that I became codependent. I created a codependent relationship with my business where I was the bottleneck for everything because I wanted to be needed. And I didn't know what to do with this tiny little creature that was growing in my tummy. Like, she didn't come with a manual, and she didn't have KPIs and a bank account and a scoreboard and, client satisfaction reviews. Like, I didn't know if I was doing a good job. And I've been asked before if I thought I had what is it called? Oh my gosh.
Postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And I'm like, no, I wasn't questioning. I didn't feel bad about myself. I just didn't know what I was doing. And this thing over here called business that I had decades of experience, in. I had my daughter in 2011, and I started my first company in 2005. So at that point, I had 6 years of experience already in business. Anybody who's had kids knows that by the time they're 6, you figured something out, right? Yeah. So at 9 months, I had no idea. And holding her and cuddling her and, kissing on her all felt fulfilling, but it didn't give me the same high as business. And so, to answer your question, it's like, I could tell you that it was alcohol's fault, but I think that it was really this unhealthy relationship that I had with business. And I can use that analogy being sober for now 15 years. And I say I can use it not in the fact that I have permission, but in the fact that I understand now that my business didn't create a toxic environment for my life, that I chose that relationship. And even if you have a job, or even if, you're just starting out, these patterns, I've had so many conversations with my clients who run incredible businesses, and they're like, well, my clients don't respect my boundaries. And I'm like, because you answered your phone at 10:30 at night. You are telling them, if you have access to this program, you have access to Telegram for Tuesday and Thursday, and then you're answering on a Sunday. So that's my answer, is that I think that it took me maybe in the last 5 years to really respect myself enough to find my worth outside of businesswoman, because I'm not an incredible businesswoman that makes me bunny. I'm bunny, and I'm an incredible unicorn. And that's the reason that my businesses have been successful. That's the reason that I can show up as a mom. And I think wrapping my head around that and owning that I was the thing that all of these things that are failing or succeeding have in common, and the energy that I bring to it. I basically, what I was saying through my actions, Harmony, was I was willing to invest 6 years into a business in order to get an ROI, but I wasn't willing to do that with my kids and my family. And that obviously had to stop.
Well, yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? I think it's a really powerful time of transition and change, and especially when you've lived a life that you like, that you love, that feels very comfortable, and you know how to live that particular life, and then you become a mother, and that life gets like upended. And I experienced something similar, having like a very serious, steady yoga practice, doing 2-3 hours of practice every morning. And right when I was having my son, or right as we got pregnant, we opened our yoga studio. And so again, like building a business at the same time as giving birth to my son. Mm-hmm. And it's a really interesting kind of balance to try and strike, like a dance, is where do you find yourself? And I think as a mother too, often that's just not where women necessarily find themselves. Mm-hmm. It's something like that you can enjoy and love and like be in relationship with, but maybe it's not like your purpose, in the sense of like you don't see it as your highest purpose.
It's so interesting. This is a huge conversation right now. And I guarantee I'm going to step in it in like so many of these interviews, because I'm not the most maternal thing on the face of the planet by society's standards. And there's a lot of women who have flat out told me that like my most important job in this world is to give my life to my kids, and that when I decided to be a mother, that's where my life ends, theirs begins, and that that's what I'm dedicating my life to. And our family is unicorny from top to bottom in the aspect that I am the breadwinner by and large. Like there's zero competition. My husband's in the military, and our company makes in a day what he makes in a year. And so, and I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that in a sense that it just doesn't make sense for me to have not gotten our family here. Mm-hmm. And I love what I do. My kids love what I do. And my husband and I had this really difficult conversation. So he's National Guard in the States, which means it's 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year for his military service. And then on the civilian side, he had a Monday through Friday federal position. And in May, we made the decision for him to leave his federal position and move out to California and basically be somewhere between what I think one woman called a house husband, which I don't know what that means, because behind the scenes, he's making everything work, And we had this conversation Sunday. We went to Disneyland, and there was this, and he's done this so many times for me, but there was this club in Disneyland that not Club 33, but it's called 21 Royale. And basically it's $18,000 for you and 12 of your best friends to go have this 6-course dining experience. And the woman said it was $18,000. And my husband's reaction when she walked away was, well, that's like a speaking gig for you. And I'm like, yeah. And then he goes, well, actually a speaking gig's like $25K. So you're still up $7K. Oh, hi, Guinness. You want to say hi to everybody on the podcast? Yeah. So you would have to talk. You have to talk. Okay, go settle. My Great Dane's like, I want, oh, hey, my Great Dane's like, I
Yeah,
want attention.
he knew you were
So
talking about food. He was like, "What? Wait,
I know. Hold on, boys. Come here, boys. Come here. Um, so we had this kind of experience, and I just looked at him like I'm not going to say none of this would be possible, right? Because we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. But here's what we do know is we do know that my nervous system, my belief in myself, he holds a mirror for me on the days that I don't believe in myself. And the position, the energy, the place that he holds in my life and in our business. He does not work in our business. You know, I joke that he's Instagram boyfriend because he's constantly taking content.
Yeah.
That energy, it's kind of like if you're doing a yoga practice and you have the support of a teacher in learning a new move. You know, like I can't tell you that I wouldn't be where I am without him. However, I do know that his support has accelerated our timeline. And so with all of that, if I'm coming back to what I think the original question is like for me, I don't necessarily find that I fit in a lot of the mom conversations because I don't think my life ended when I had kids. In fact, I think that my businesses are so much more efficient and have such an incredible impact on this world because I'm taking my kids along for the ride and because I'm not prioritizing business or kids. I'm doing this version of what I affectionately call like yes and, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, I own businesses and I'm a mom. And both of those get to alchemize to make both of them even better.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important to have women who are doing this and who are creating both a life and a business that meets them
Yeah.
where they're at and
Yes.
that support their families, support their lives, support their hearts,
Yes.
their dreams, and realize they can do it all.
Yes. And
You
you're going to
know?
make people uncomfortable. Like a
Yeah.
friend of mine I think she's 7 months pregnant and she just went to Burning Man. And she has a really large Instagram account. And the amount of trolls that she got in her Instagram account being like, you're so irresponsible being this far away from a hospital and that pregnant and all of this kind of stuff. And I told her what I tell you and what I tell everybody in Defy. If you are not triggering people, you're not inspiring people either. Like if you're in your energy and you're saying it loud enough to inspire people, you're going to trigger people. And she's like, I just want to tell them that, you know, like there's moms that are not eating correctly and they're, you know, not exercising and they're not taking their nutrients and their supplements. And so there's so many other things that these women are doing that are more dangerous than being, you know, 20 minutes away from a hospital. I'm like, yes, but you're triggering them. You're making them uncomfortable because you're doing something. You're giving yourself permission to do something that is an F yes alignment for you. And they have stories in their head that they can't, or it's not safe for them to do that. And so they've got to make you wrong in order to be able to be in their safety and comfort zone.
Yeah. 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 That's such a like good observation. I think about it frequently about
Right?
how can I make more people uncomfortable?
Right? And like, if you think about the greatest marketing messages on the face of the planet, they shake you
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form. Right?
Yeah.
And so
Totally.
why wouldn't our conversations and our existence and our realities be the same?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what helps us to define what we believe, who we are, and helps us to grow too, is even just having, you know, not just everything happening the way that we expect or want, but having the contrast too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what makes the world go round, right? Is
Yeah.
night and day and sunrise, sunset, moon, sun, like all of this. And so I think I'm so grateful for my worth not being dependent on people on Instagram. And I also think often well, maybe it's not often, maybe that's too generous, but I often think like, wow, you took the time out of your busy day to tell me all the things that I'm doing wrong with my life. Like, that took some investment and that took some energy. And I just want to celebrate the freedom that you have, that you got everything important done in your day and found leftover time to inventory my entire life for me. Like, thank you. I'm so glad you care about me that much. And I mean that. I mean that if you know me, I mean that from my heart. But the amount of people that get so pissed off, they're like, you're being so condescending. I'm like, the fact that you care about me enough that you took time out of your life to write me a dissertation on an inventory that you did of my life, which clearly if you were to make these claims, you've done your research on my life and your history and, you know, probably talk to my parents and talk to my friends if you are in full confidence knowing this much.
Yeah.
Like, did you go over my tax returns? Like, thank you.
They must really, I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? Is and that comes back to energy. Is that same energy of like love or hate is actually the same energetic connection that's pulling somebody towards you.
Yes. And I know that we've discussed this before, but I want everybody that's listening to, you know, have a chance to really lean into what this concept called a black mirror is. And it's something that made me very uncomfortable the first time that I learned about it, because I think by nature as herd beings or as, you know, communal beings, we want to be accepted and we want to be loved and we want to be understood. And I've had this experience so many times in my life where I speak my truth and somebody's like, I can't with you, Bunny. And I'm like, okay. And so one of my mentors in the energetics fields of my life was like, introduce this concept of what's called a black mirror. And you can look it up. And it is the aspect that sometimes one of your gifts is being able to hold up and see gaps in people's lives. However, they don't want to look in the mirror. They don't want to see that. And so they'll argue with the reflection versus receiving the feedback. And ironically, I don't even have to say anything sometimes. I mean, we've talked about so many aspects of my life that end up being a black mirror. My existence on this planet sometimes is a black mirror for people.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, even when I say like I'm not the most maternal thing on the planet, and it's like, well, you have kids, you should be. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that I'm not the most maternal thing on the planet. I know that by society's definition, I don't fit that of mom, and I'm working on it every single day. And I am working on becoming a better person for me, not for my kids. They're a positive consequence of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting too, because you're also like a really good mom. Like you really do spend time with your kids because you have the time, you've created the time to spend with them. So, you know, maybe it's not like maternal in sort of a traditional, like, you know, I'm going to bake cookies for the kids for the parent teacher interviews, or you know, the kids performance. I'm gonna go shop and buy them, or
100%. I'll write that check all day long.
Right. But that's also, I mean, we've talked about this a lot too, like leaning into your strengths and your gifts and what gives you energy versus what takes energy away from you as well.
Yeah. And the other thing, I'm going to say yes, because my grandmother would be so disappointed that I was saying yes. And I think this concept, if we can just lean into this for entrepreneurship and for motherhood and life, is perfection is not what creates value. We're seeing so much of this in AI. And actually, this was my topic today that I was going to deliver to the Unleashed, is that perfection is not what creates value. It's actually the imperfections. And I'm going to give you a life example of this in a second. However, it's an Asian practice of when you break a vase to put it back together with gold. And
yeah,
it's
ikigai, I think it's
yeah.
called.
Is that? We'll have to look it
It's
up.
it's a Japanese practice. I think it's called ikigai.
Okay, I will believe you until we're proven otherwise,
Okay.
and that can be my truth. I'm going to Japan a little bit later this month, so
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
And it's this aspect of what our fractures, our breaks, our imperfections is actually what adds the most value. And I think about it with art. The reason that AI is never going to be able to create art like the Mona Lisa, like Banks, like, or Banksy, like all of that, is because there's minor imperfections, there's minor flaws. And the same is true of our lives. And so yesterday, I think it was yesterday or it was Sunday, my husband and I were having this discussion, and I did not feel like he was listening to me. And so I shared that, and I still, like 4 times later, didn't feel like he was listening to me. And I chose to raise my voice. And I share this with my kids around when I'm training horses, like adding emotion into it or frustration into it doesn't necessarily lead to a better outcome, whether I'm training horses or dogs and the same thing is true with humans. And so me raising my voice had a lot of emotion in it. And I don't typically do that. And there's normally this 4-step process where it's ask, tell, demand, promise. And I do it with my kids. I do it with the horses. I do it in my relationship. And I felt like it still wasn't working. So I raised my voice and I owned it with my husband. I told him that he didn't, not immediately, but I told him that he didn't deserve me to raise my voice at him. That wasn't appropriate behavior. And then I went to my girls and I said, did you hear me raise my voice with Daddy? And they said, yeah, you sounded really frustrated. And I said, let's talk about it. And so the same thing is true like with wounds, where the skin and the scar tissue that forms ends up making that part of your body stronger and more resilient. And I think those ruptures is what I own that makes me a great mom, is because I'm willing to talk through and learn from my failures out loud. And I'm willing to have feedback. And I've been accused of running my family the way that I run my companies. And my feedback for that is my companies are pretty damn successful. So, I have this conversation with both of my daughters. I have a 14-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 1-year-old son. And I explained to them they did not come with manuals. I am making this up as I go. And I'm open for feedback and suggestions. So, and a lot of parents don't agree with me, but we collaborate on their consequences. They don't need me to tell them what they did wrong and what the consequence is. They know. They know.
Yeah.
I mean, I walked into my daughter's room at the beginning of the summer and she was hiding her laptop under the bed or under the blankets. And she said, I could choose to lie to you. However, I think that would be worse than just owning the fact that I was on my computer. And I said, okay, in the morning, will you tell me what the consequence is going to be? And she did. And I would love to tell you that I'm a great mom because my kids are going to be emotionally regulated. I don't know that to be true. I will tell you that I will pay for their therapy for as long as I need to. And I think the best thing that I've done as a parent is to regulate myself and to take ownership of my imperfections and be open for feedback and to also be open for dialogue around that and to let them see what it looks like, not to be perfect, but to fail and still love yourself unconditionally.
Yeah. Isn't that just the most powerful message we can hope to ever, transmit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking to me when my 8-year-old, this was last year, she was in 2nd grade. My husband and I, had some kind of I'm making it sound like we argue all the time, but I can think of like 2 disagreements that we've had this year. And she overheard, it wasn't even a disagreement, but she overheard like some kind of frustration in our voices when we were communicating to each other. And she asked, "Are you and Daddy getting a divorce?" And I sat her down and I just said, "Honey, like, I want you to know that just because I don't agree with your daddy in this moment doesn't mean that I don't love him. And I'm always going to love him. Not because he's my husband, not because he's your daddy, but because of who he is. And your daddy and I are both doing our best to become better people. And sometimes that, can be difficult and frustrating." And I said, "Is there anything that we did that makes you think that we are not going to stay married and living in the same house and all of that?" And she said, "No, just the kids at school, like when their parents have an argument, they get a divorce." And I'm like, that it's so much more complicated than that. And so the fact that these 7 and 8-year-olds at such a pivotal time in their life are understanding that conflict equals probably one of the most traumatic things for a child, other than losing a parent, to experience, of like mom and dad separating. And I don't disagree with that decision. I think that there's plenty of healthy reasons to no longer participate in a partnership. And if that were the case for my husband and I, if we ever decided to no longer participate living together or being in a relationship together, we would make sure that our kids understood why we were making the decision and that we understand the consequences and the impact on them in that decision, but not that it came from an argument or that it came from like a disagreement. It comes from a choice that the healthier path is to not cohabitate and to not be in a relationship. I do my best. I don't know like that it's always this case, but I do my best to make decisions based on who I'm becoming rather than who I was.
I love that. Yeah. Do you find like for people who are starting their own businesses or their own companies or wanting to expand or create more income or become more visible, I mean, I feel like one of your qualities is like radical honesty. And I feel like this is something that maybe is required for people who want to like really step into that next level.
Yes, I would agree. I think radical ownership.
Radical ownership. Yeah.
Is so important in life and in business. So in full transparency, I was 20 minutes late to this podcast episode because I violated one of my policies, which is I agreed to something and did not forward it to my executive assistant to put on my calendar. I cannot be responsible for my calendar. We know what happens, not because I'm spoiled. I have a brain injury, and for some reason, that's one of the things that since my car accident in 2018 is so incredibly difficult. I can solve all of your revenue issues probably in 30 minutes in your business. And putting it on my calendar, clearly failure. So, Harmony, you emailed me, and I showed up. And, radical ownership looks like instead of looking at Leona, my executive assistant, and being like, you should have read my email and like made sure this podcast. No, even if I sent it to Leona and she didn't get it on my calendar, I'm still going to take ownership of that. I'm the person that's here. And in the person that's here, I'm assuming, for better or for worse, that everything's happening for me, that this is the exact time we were supposed to do the podcast, 20 minutes after whatever our scheduled time was. And this conversation, we couldn't have this part of the conversation and my answer to this question if that hadn't happened. So that's more than enough evidence that I need in order to know that it was supposed to happen. It was supposed to happen because it happened, right? Yeah. And I also, in taking radical ownership, am going to confess to Leona that I made this mistake and, apologize and take ownership, not just to you, because your time is precious, but also to her that I violated what is one of our systems and that it slipped in my mind. and that I apologize on how it reflects on our company. I'm the owner of the company. So does it really matter that much? Yes, it does, because I'm holding up this value for my team to say, look, you don't have to be perfect, but take ownership. Yeah. Take ownership of it. You know, and there's so many examples that I have of that. Entrepreneurship, I know I say this so much, is one of the most gnarly personal development journeys. If you receive it, and if you allow it to be. If you come to me and you say, ooh, this is going to be edgy. You ready for a little spicy? Like, if you come to me and you say, I'm not making any money. None of my clients are signing. None of my clients are renewing. I'm having all of these prospect conversations. But then, you know, when it comes time for them to actually sign up to work with me, no one is saying yes. And my team can't be trusted. And my website's still not finished. What's the one thing that all of those have in common? And I've had these conversations. We can laugh about it, but I've had these conversations, and I had a client that was like, I had 30, what we call in Defy, they're called ICIs. And so it's an ideal client interview. And there's a point when at the ideal client interview that if it aligns, if your magic and their desires, their pain points, their obstacles, their objectives, like align, it's almost your responsibility to offer to support them in a coaching container or in an energetics container. And so I had this conversation with the clients. Like, I had 30 ICIs and I did not sign a single client. I said, how many clients did you pitch? And they were like, well, I shouldn't have to pitch. You don't get 100% of what you don't ask for.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by this entrepreneurship journey and radical ownership is there's one of two realities that you can live in. One is that it's everyone else. Everyone else is the problem. And you need everyone else to get their SHIT together in order to like for you to be successful, in order for you to make $1 million, in order for you to build, you know, a $10 million company, in order for you to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. You need everybody else to change who they are and stop being butt monkeys in order for you to be successful, which good luck.
Yeah. Good luck.
There's a lot of butt monkeys in this world. Then there's a second reality, which is the reality I live in, is that I'm the problem 100% of the time. And that's what I mean by radical ownership. I'm the problem 100% of the time. So I'm the reason my daughter was watching YouTube on her computer at night. And if I'm the problem, that also means I'm the solution. So I get to explore what it would look like to have more meaningful conversations with her at dinner, to explore supporting her and witnessing what a wind down routine would be, to invite her to create a charging station downstairs in the kitchen so the laptop doesn't even go upstairs. Like, what reality feels better? Because if you're the problem, the good news is you're also the solution. Only 100% of the time, though. And that brings your power back. And in entrepreneurship and in life, the more that you can feel empowered, not from a dominant standpoint, but from you being in your highest and best frequency, the better outcomes you're going to have in life and the more abundance you're going to experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. I think just like, that radical ownership or radical responsibility and recognizing that you actually are in control of a lot of the results you're getting. I mean, life always, has unexpected twists and turns, but who you are showing up as in those moments is really you, up to you.
And take inventory of it. That's something that you and I have talked about. If you are having these sales conversations, these ICIs, these clarity calls, whatever you want to call them, and people aren't signing up, are you pitching? Because let's look at your pitch, right?
Yeah.
Is it the wrong audience? Is it the wrong offer? And here, like, lean in for this. Did you ask them why they were a no?
Yeah.
because that data is gold. And the longer that you live in confusion and choose to not get uncomfortable, transformation is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's no massive things that I've overcome in my life, from learning how to walk to brain injuries to parenting to all that has been comfortable.
Yeah.
And yet it's all part of this greater journey to becoming me and remembering who I am. And I'm not saying, oh, if you're, comfortable sitting on the beach right now enjoying yourself, that you're not in your edge. You don't have to be in your edge 100% of the time. Yeah. But there gets to a point, and if you're honest with yourself, you know what that point is, where you get too comfortable and it becomes complacency. And you're no longer using your magic to make this world a better place. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're in Harmony's world, like, I'm 100% certain that you are a unicorn that has magical capabilities to make this world a better place. And I don't know if you have looked around, but now might be the time to go do your thing, because the world needs you. And so if this was like the Avengers recruitment podcast, Now is the time. Go put your leotard on and go save the world, because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that need you. And there's billions of people on this planet. So the odds that you would have a conversation with 30 of them and they all say no to your gifts either means you're not in your power, you're not speaking to your people, or you're not listening to what it is that their obstacle is.
Yeah. Yeah. And, what's coming up for me is, I think a lot of times, like, you feel like you have, like, as someone who maybe has gifts or, teaches yoga or is in the healing arts or is a coach or is running their own business in some way, you feel like you have gifts. But you also, I meet a lot of people, and I remember even kind of being this way myself in the past as well, just feeling like, well, people should just find me. Like, I'm just going to emit like this magical frequency, and like a sonar, people are just going to like start floating in the front door. But it doesn't like exactly work that way.
Yes. I've said this so many times on this podcast. Yes, and your frequency is most potent when you're broadcasting. And when you're broadcasting, it's because you are putting your magic out in the world. You're not sitting on a couch. So for you, Harmony, when you are doing your retreats, when you are doing your workshops, when you are doing this podcast, you are broadcasting your frequency. And that does attract people. You are correct. That does attract people. What I hear you saying is that when a lot of us, myself included, please know, like, I have my finger pointed at myself, where I'm like drafting Instagram captions and I'm redesigning a landing page that no one will ever see. And I'm in my email responding to stuff that doesn't matter. And I'm failing to schedule podcasts. And then I'm like, why is no one finding me? And then, your brilliant unicorn coach goes, yeah, did you post the Instagram captions? Yeah. No. Well, I sent 13 emails last week to my list. Well, how many people are on your list? 8. You're like, did you tell anybody you sent the emails? Did you post a screenshot on your stories and tell people what the value was going to be? Did you go out and network? Did you offer? This is my, this is my secret weapon. So I have 2 secret weapons that have led to my highest revenue clients in my life. So one is this: airplanes.
Yeah.
Because you have a captive audience.
Yeah.
And it never fails that the person sitting next to you is going to ask you this question. And that's my second secret weapon. They're going to ask you, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you remember what my response is to that?
Let me show you.
Let me show you. I've literally told people, I have no effing idea what I do, but I'm really good at it. Can I show you?
Yeah.
And then I coach them.
That's beautiful. That's amazing.
And what's beautiful is when somebody's like, oh my gosh, I want to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to have that conversation and you land with a couple, tens of thousands of dollars richer because they're in for a 12-month package. Mm-hmm. You're broadcasting that frequency. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the client. It was just about, hey, I'm on that. My record right now is 7 in one flight because it was the person who was sitting next to me. Mm-hmm. It was the person that was behind us, the person that was across the aisle, the flight attendant. The flight attendant told the pilot, and the person that I actually coached ended up signing his wife up to.
Wow.
That's my record.
That's a good flight.
That's my record. Needless to say, my flight was paid for. And, it's not how good I am. Mm-hmm. I'm not phenomenal because I was born this way. I'm phenomenal because, like an Olympian or like a professional athlete, I am practicing my magic. I'm not hiding behind a screen building a landing page. I'm not hiding in my emails with calendar invites. I am in my magic. That's what I said when we popped on. I was like, apparently this is what I'm supposed to be doing today, because I had somebody in Colombia that has the #1 podcast in Spanish on sales that wanted to do a podcast together. And now we're doing one with you in Canada. And this is a global day of broadcasting my message. But do you feel how energetically charged that becomes that this is what I'm doing today rather than emails?
Yeah, thank goodness.
Right?
But it's good you were in your email just for a brief few moments.
I know. And that's exactly where I was supposed to be. That's exactly where I was supposed to be, And the irony is that I text my husband and I was like, hey, I'm going to go do pickup from school today because I don't have anything for the rest of my day. And he's like, oh, well, I already left. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'm supposed to be here. And I opened my email and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. So
I love it when everything falls into place and all the little pieces.
Yes.
You see. Oh.
Here's the deal though. Everything's always falling into place, even when it's falling apart.
It's true.
Even when it's falling apart. I have had the most gigantic dumpster fires of my life. And the only thing that hurts is my resistance to what is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I will get off this podcast. I will go down and make myself food. And I will not think, oh, Bunny, you're so you should have done X, Y. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm exactly where I was supposed to be with the message that somebody that's listening to this podcast, maybe it's you that's listening right now, deserve to hear this. Mm-hmm. And 100%. Whether or not you and I ever get to connect in real life, those that are listening, I get to connect with Harmony in real life in 20 days and go to Disneyland. So you all can just be jealous of that. Instagram pictures incoming. So you can also come with us. That's a reality as well.
Yeah.
But for those of you that I may or may never get to connect with in real life, you're more than welcome to send me an Instagram message. But at the end of the day, if you turn off this podcast and listen to all of it and leave Harmony a review and share it with a friend, after you've done all of that, then you can turn the podcast off and you go and create a client from the energy from this podcast. That's enough for me. That is more than enough for me.
Yeah. I love that. Can you talk to, just before we wrap up, a little bit strategy, I think, is important. And you definitely support me in creating some strategies. But I think that clarity of purpose and also, I don't know, understanding yourself feels more important than strategy.
Yes. So I think strategy is 20%. I think strategy is 20% of it. And I look at strategy as the riverbanks that holds the flow and holds the magic. And I've seen a lot of women entrepreneurs subscribe to this feminine business style,
Yeah.
which I love. I love. And it can burn you out really quickly, the same way that a completely masculine forced bro marketing can burn you out really quickly without the flow. I think everything works in balance, and balance is not equal. Balance is harmonization in nature, right?
Yeah.
And so we talk about competence, which is how good you are at what you do, and confidence, which is how good you are at being you. And it takes both, I think, to be successful. And you deserve systems that support you. You deserve support, right? If you look at our bodies, we are energy that is put into a nervous system, a circulatory system, a respiratory system, a digestive system that supports our energy being able to move about in this world. And the same thing is true for business as well. So my circulatory system means nothing without my energy. And my energy is actually the thing that flows through the systems that brings them to life. And so that's so important. So business to me is 80% energy, 20% strategy. And I think that systems is something that we use, and strategy is something that we use to keep our frequency low and our energy hidden. And my grandfather started a $3 million a year trucking company in late 60s, early 70s. I should probably, the amount of times I reference his company, should know what year he opened his trucking company. And he's passed away. However, I laugh now because the company still has no website, has no landing page, obviously.
Yeah.
The phone number for the office for so many years would go to my grandparents' house. Right.
Wow.
And then they ran like a pirated line from a towing company to be able to do outbound calls because they couldn't afford, like a phone. They were working in like a camping trailer in the yard of the towing company. And this grew to a $3 million a year company. And it's still around and still has clients like Procter and Gamble and Disney and Technicolor and 3M. These are massive companies all over the world.
Wow.
And would they benefit from having some systems? Sure, absolutely. And it was built, though, on my grandfather's energy. And my grandfather subscribed to the fact that if you hire the right people, they will take care of the process and you'll never have to worry about the product. And he used to tell me when I don't want to say I was super little, but when I was younger, that the CEO should be the dumbest person in the room. And I'm like, what does that mean? I get it now. And you deserve to surround yourself right now before, even if you're like, Bunny, I'm not at $10,000 a month or $100,000 months. Like, this sounds great for you. You've done however many millions of dollars in business. The smartest thing that I did was hire a board of advisors. And I was serious about it. Even though I didn't pay them, I paid them in donuts and hugs, which I don't hug very often. So it was a very, very high thing. And it wasn't about them taking me seriously. It was about me taking me seriously. And so I didn't talk to them about strategy. I had them hold me accountable for the kind of business woman that I wanted to be and the kind of difference I wanted to make in this world. There's a really interesting consequence of naming your company a better place. You have this tremendous name to live up to.
Yeah.
And so I hired a board of advisors, and my mom was on my board of advisors, and a mentor, Dr. Hamilton. And I asked these people to hold me accountable to who I wanted to be in my company and show up in the world and deliver on that. And whatever level you're at, you deserve support. And not support in what you do, but support in who you are, because the what you do you already have that. You already have that. I think it's easier to forget who you are than it is to forget what you do.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question? Did I answer the question?
I think so. Yeah. And it kind of brings it back to like also purpose and like understanding yourself as well.
Yeah.
Like that it's so important to have, yeah, to really figure out like who do you want to be in this world and who are you in this world too, not just who you want to be, because sometimes we try to like be other people.
And I'm still figuring it out.
That never works.
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah. And it changes too, right? As we go through different phases.
It does. And it's not that I'm constantly pushing the limits. It's that the more that I show up as me. Disneyland is a really great example, right? Like if you had told me 5 years ago that people would be motivated by a bonus trip to Disneyland with me, I'd be like, you are very special. And I appreciate that that's how you see the world. And yet the more that I've become me, like the more that I am willing to share that. I had a client fly out from Atlanta and we did a 2-day retreat or a 2-day VIP day. So that's $10,000 per day. And I asked what they wanted to do for like their days. And I'm expecting to be locked in a room, in a conference room, like going through all of their strategy. And we did some of their strategy in my living room and it was great. And again, it was less than 20%. And they said, I want to go to Disneyland with you for a day.
Nice.
Okay. Here we go. Like, let's make that happen. I'll buy your ticket because that's a good ROI right there.
Yeah.
And so let it surprise you. Let it surprise you what happens when you go all in on being you and life shows up around you.
Yeah. I love it. That's so strong. I think that's a good note for us to end on. I think
the
it's
quote
powerful.
from the universe. What was that quote from the universe that I shared with you? Is like the universe desires to support you, or the universe is always. Yeah, it was something like that. We'll have to put it in the show notes because I'll send it to you after this. But it's like, what if you spent the rest of the day? The universe is always waiting to serve you. And I want to push that just a little bit further as we end and just say, what if you woke up today or after listening to this podcast and subscribing and sharing it with a friend and writing a review? Because I'm going to be all about that for Harmony.
Thank you. Yes, please.
What if you
just tagging us and mentioning your takeaway?
Yes. What if you just assumed the universe is constantly conspiring in your favor?
Yeah. I believe that's true.
How would that look? Of course it's true. I mean, the universe is efficient AF. So I don't believe that it puts obstacles in our way to make us frustrated. It puts obstacles in our way to redirect us or to give us the exact challenges to help us with the curriculum for the next phase of our life.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's the good part.
Okay, that's the good part. That was like the PS at the end.
Yes, there we go.
Tell everyone where they can find you and what you're up to, what's going on in your world, Bunny, so they can be a part of it.
You can find me at Disneyland with Harmony on the 23rd. That's where you can come find me. I am the 6'3" turquoise unicorn mermaid, unicorn mermaid with turquoise hair with the 150-pound service dog. So walking around Disneyland, it shouldn't be that hard. I would love to connect with you on Instagram. It's at the Bunny Young, and there's so many free resources on bunnyyoung.com and a betterplaceconsulting.com to be able to support you. So any of those paths are here for your support.
Beautiful. And if any of you forget, just reach out to me and I'm happy to direct you.
Yes.
We are in constant communication.
Yes. Come join the unicorn herd in Defy and get some of Harmony's magic too.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was so nice to connect with you, and I'm so glad the universe timed it perfectly.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for everybody who's listening all around the world. And Harmony, you are magic and you are amazing. And I'm so proud of you. And everybody listening is so lucky to have you in their life. So, mwah.
Thank you. Wow, that was such a powerful reminder. Success isn't about doing more. It's about aligning your energy so that you can create more with less effort. If today's conversation resonated with you, then I want to invite you into this beautiful space, my Lightworker Mastermind, where we live and breathe this truth together. This is a community of yoga teachers, healers, spiritual entrepreneurs, weavers, and magic makers, coaches who are coming together and building businesses that feel like an extension of their soul, that incorporate both strategy and alignment rooted in energy and self-leadership. Inside, you'll experience not only direct coaching in a group container and one-on-one for your business, but you'll also receive regular somatic healing as well as energetic recalibration. All of this is designed to help you grow without burnout, to help you move through those blocks, whether it's a lack of confidence or feeling inhibited to show up on social media, not getting in front of the right people, not knowing how to connect to the right people to grow your business, helping you move through those obstacles with ease because you feel good. Your nervous system is regulated. And so you'll find the link to join us in the show notes. And if you're having problems finding that link, again, reach out to me on Instagram at Harmony Slater Official. I would love to welcome you into this circle or just have a conversation on what kind of support you're looking for and how what I offer might be that support for you. So thank you for tuning in today. I cannot wait to connect with you next week. We have another beautiful episode coming up for you. I cannot wait to share this next guest with you. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.